Hey, Jackie, can you talk me through your Ben Simmons column, your Sixers column here? Brett Brown was needing him to take a three to such an extent that he was gonna fine him. What's the story here?
No, he wasn't going to fine him, but he did sit down with him before the season, Tony, and with his parents, by the way, and said, listen, we need you to shoot threes for our team to space the floor to help everybody. If you don't, I can bench you. I can do that. Don't make me do that. I want you to shoot threes. But if you want, do you want me to bench you? If you don't take them. This was a real thing that was on the table. In the end, Brett Brown, he's too good a person, honestly, to use that technique. And I think you have to remember, if you read the story, and I think you'll see that there's a mental component to this, Tony, why Ben Simmons isn't going to shoot that at three until he's ready. And I think it's wrong to browbeat him into doing it, and I think Brett Brown agreed. Now, I will tell you this, that my sources tell me that the front office and some of the ownership wanted Brett Brown to do that, and he didn't.
Well, that's okay. That's great to know. What do you think this says about the long-term viability of the relationship and of the Philadelphia 76ers?
I think Ben Simmons is going to end up shooting threes, but the point that I tried to make in the story, and it's a good one, I think, because I talked to a bunch of coaches throughout the league, is this. Let's say Ben Simmons ends up shooting 2 to 3 threes a game, okay? Because that's what everybody wants him to do. Let's say he makes 2 to 3 threes a game. What's going to change, Tony, when it comes to the playoffs and they're guarding Ben Simmons, who's unbelievable driving to the basket, who's an unbelievable post-up player? If in a tight game at the end of the game, what are you going to do? You're going to lay off Ben Simmons. Just like with Giannis now, Giannis is shooting threes. But in a big playoff game, in a tight game, what are you going to do? You're going to lean back and say, have at it, big guy, because everything else you do it better. So that's why I don't think it's as big a deal as everyone makes it out.
It's not a big deal, but it's certainly something people make something out of, because we talked about this every week for the entirety of this half a season we had. Woody Page, you were part of 90% of those shows. You're well averse to what they're doing in Philadelphia. How do you take in that a coach had to sit down to a player and say, I'm going to bench you if you don't do this?
I think it is a big deal. And you touched upon, Jackie, what my thought has been all along. He's Steve Sachs. I think he has the yips. I think he's afraid to take three-pointers. I think it's a mental issue because he's a great basketball player. You don't think during the offseason, Magic Johnson was a good friend of yours, Jackie. Magic Johnson couldn't shoot threes when he came in the league. Not at all. And what he did during the offseason was go out and shoot push shots. They weren't jump shots.
Woody, for a second. It's an entirely different game now. That's what we're talking about, the need for volume threes.
Well, I think that it made Magic honest from the outside that teams did have to go out and guard him at the three-point line. I'm just saying I think he's afraid. I think it was a good idea to sit down with him and to bring his parents in there and say, hey, we really need you to – if he throws up 3 or 4 a game, it doesn't make them. What difference does it make? Shaq couldn't make free throws, but yet he still went to the free throw line all the time. I just think it makes a big mistake that he is not just honestly trying those, and I think it is a middle situation, that he's just afraid to do it, and he needs to get over that fear, or he's not going to be a full-rounded player. He's going to be a double-double every night, not a triple-double, because he can't make three-pointers and won't even shoot them.
Jackie, it's such a fascinating window into relationships between players and coaches. And the nugget about the family, Clinton Yates, how did that register with you?
That struck me as really weird. I mean, I know for me when I was a kid, the teachers talked to your parents when you were not doing your homework or cussing too much in class. It wasn't for you to do something that required the learning. And that's what I don't really understand about this, is that whether he's scared, whether or not he thinks it's a personal agency thing, like, this is a part of your game that's going to help you and your team be better. Why would you not want to at least give this a try? That psychology is very difficult for me to sort of understand it. I'm not saying it's not justified, but whatever it is, the Sixers need to know. Because I don't want to broad brush generations, but I can't imagine a player 15 years ago saying, guess what, I'm not doing this because it just doesn't suit me as a human being more largely. And that, to me, is very strange. It speaks a little bit towards, what his goals are in basketball. And I'm not judging them. It's just like, hey, man, you want to get better or not? And that's why it's weird for me to understand.
Jackie, can you think of any historical comps, or at least maybe you saw a relationship and it went one way or the other historically in the NBA between player and coach like this?
I haven't really can remember anything quite like this because he's so good. I mean, he's a really talented player. He could be an all-NBA player even without that three. But the two things I would say about it is, number one, I think there's, one of the things Brett Brown also said in the story was, if Ben Simmons got to play with house money, if they weren't expected to be good, the Sixers, and he just got to go out and make mistakes like most rookies, he thinks he'd be jacking up threes all the time. Yeah. So a lot of this has to do with expectation and pressure of these number one picks in the quote-unquote process. That to me is important. And I think in a city like Philadelphia, that contributes to it. He gets roasted on Twitter, this kid. He's an unbelievable basketball player. And I have some sympathy for him because I've spent some time with him. Why are his parents involved? His brother's his agent. David Simmons played for Brett Brown in Australia. The parents are around. They're part of Ben Simmons's, I don't want to say group. They're part of his inner circle. Right. So I think that's why.
That's a very, very good point. By the way, Clint Yates, I'm going to have to ask you to bring in your parents right now. We have something we need to talk about here.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.